Welcome to the Cold Hard Truth on Sports. I apologize in advance if I am out of line here.
Brace yourselves, boys. We're going in.
Am I hallucinating here? Just what in the hell do you think you are doing?
I can't believe you.
I'm not reading. I'm just looking at a picture. Welcome to the Cold Hard Truth on Sports.
Welcome, everybody, to another great week here of the Cold Hard Truth on Sports. I am your host, Matthew Long. Great show in store for you tonight. We will be getting into the college football bowl games, breaking down some of those, as well as talking a bit about our Heisman and award winners. I did vote for 3 of the awards this college football season, so I will share my vote now that we know who the winners are. I didn't want to influence anybody. But in the second hour of the show, around 10 Eastern, we will have the president for the basketball league, a professional basketball league, be the third league here in the United States, will join us, Dave Magley. And just want to say thank you all for tuning in each and every week. I know a lot of you still listening on BlogTalkRadio, Spreaker.com, the Spreaker app, over on Facebook Live, Facebook Watch, and welcoming in for the first time over on Sportscaster. So we've been growing and syndicating the show. You can get the podcast versions of the show on SoundCloud, iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on and on and on, as well as the website, thechtonsports.com. Just click on the listen link in the upper left-hand corner or on the drop-down menu, and feel free to listen to every episode of this show as well as the Boxing Source radio show. And that's one area where I'm actually going to kick the show off. The most watched fight on cable television this year was this past Saturday. It was over on ESPN. Terrence Crawford versus The Machine. And I could tell you, I scored the fight. It was a good fight, despite what you might have seen on a scorecard or what the final ended up being. Terrence Crawford did win by TKO 44 seconds into the 9th round, and Kowalska. I am terrible with Eastern European names, so I will just go with The Machine. I'm not gonna murder it. I will not do that. He's a good fighter. He was undefeated. He was and the number 1 contender. So you have to continue to fight, and you have to continue to face the top people in front of you. And I had The Machine winning, I think, at most 2 rounds. 1 round. He was knocked down 3 times in the fight. And it was one of those fights. It was energy packed. Terrence Crawford almost was Mike Tyson-esque in the fight. Once he was aware of he could take the biggest punches, clean shots from the machine, he did something you don't normally see. He stood in front of him and went toe-to-toe with a guy that was steadfast, sturdy, could take a punch, and was patient, which is usually not a guy you want to stand in front of. But the skills and athleticism of Terrence Crawford is surpassed by none. I believe, without a doubt, he is pound for pound the best boxer on the planet. Bud broke him down for essentially 6.5 rounds in a southpaw stance. Southpaw. Then switched to orthodox. It became a completely different fight. Now, most fighters, doesn't matter if it's boxing or what it is, they tend to have either southpaw or orthodox. It's usually what you're seeing, one or the other. But Terrence Crawford is so proficient at both, and he has power at both, that you have to anticipate him fighting either other way. You have to almost train for two fighters. If you can't afford to bring in sparring partners, Terrence Crawford is going to be a tough guy to train for, because you're going to have to bring in sparring partners that are southpaw and orthodox to get anywhere close to a rounded sort of feel. So it was a tremendous fight. It was entertaining. It went 9 rounds. And Terrence Crawford broke him down, but in a way that, like I said, was almost Mike Tyson-esque. He stood in front of him. He bobbed. He weaved. He threw his punches. He ate a few. Stuck his tongue out at him. And then knocks him out in the 9th round. Again, he was knocked down. Machine was knocked down 3 times in the fight. Once in the 8th and twice in the 8th. Let me go back. I got it in front of me. Once in the 7th, and then twice in the 9th round. He was knocked down early. It was considered a knockdown. He got back up, and then he finished him off in 44 seconds of the 9th round. So it was a tremendous fight this weekend. It's worth going back over. You can catch that over on the ESPN app and watch it in its entirety. I'm telling you, it's well worth checking it out. All right, I want to move on to the MVP race. Right now, it seems like most people are looking at Lamar Jackson as the favor to win the MVP race. Which I get it. He is having a phenomenal season. And I don't dispute what he's done or what he's doing. It's tremendous, to say the least. But there has been a lot of claims that he is without question the league's MVP. That's a little far for me, but without a doubt, he has been tremendous this season. He has, in less than, and not even including playoffs, and well within the regular season, he has beaten Michael Vick's single season rushing record for a quarterback. On top of that, he is closing in on Peyton Manning's touchdown passing record. So, to put it in more of a perspective, it's phenomenal if a player does any one of those things in a given year, let alone both of those things in a given year, in a given season, within the regular season. We're not counting any playoff games, no wild card games. Just within the regular season, he's been able to accomplish or close in on these feats. And I know there's been a lot of shots taken at him in the past. There's been doubt that had been shed on him in the past, and rightfully so. I myself didn't see from the body of work that he put up his senior year, particularly in the bowl game, that last game out as a college athlete, to show where he was, what he had become in college football. He didn't play well, to say the very least. On top of that, coming out into the draft, he kind of had a peculiar situation when it came to his representation. I don't mean the person was peculiar, but who the person was in relation to them and their experience at their position, being his agent, which was his mom, which is heartfelt, and I get that. You want someone that is highly trusted to be your agent. They are leveraging your future. They're negotiating for your best value. And you want to have that person with your best interests at heart. And for a son, there's usually not any person on this planet, at least at heart, that has your better interest at mind than your mom. So, I get it. But to have somebody in the position to contact teams or to negotiate with teams or to coordinate with teams, be somebody that doesn't have experience or relationships with said teams or said league, adds a certain degree of difficulty. I have sources that told me that teams would reach out, and sometimes they got a hold of his mom. Sometimes they didn't. Sometimes she'd call back. Sometimes she wouldn't. There were supposed to be flights and meetings and workouts coordinated and set up, and on occasion it didn't. So is that saying that she can't do her job? No, she's just not experienced at it. And because of the lack of experience she had in the relationship, and without having someone that this team saw, again, speaking from the team's perspective, as a reliable person that they could contact and coordinate these things with, there was doubt, more doubt shed on Lamar Jackson. Now, there's no doubt that he can play football. There was no doubt he was a tremendous athlete. There's no doubt he had an arm. But there was questions to his accuracy. There was questions to his decision-making. Did he have a tendency to break the pocket and run more frequently? Could his body hold up in a league where so many quarterbacks that have been coined mobile or running quarterbacks have seen their careers end far too early. Yes, it was warranted to have worries about Lamar Jackson. Absolutely. From his representation, from his game film, to what his tendencies and everything people looked at, from scouts. He's not a tremendously vocal person. He's really not a talkative person at all. He would be labeled a man of few words. And I think that's even kind of understating it. Not that he doesn't have anything to say, not that he doesn't have an opinion, is that he wants to go play football. That's what his focus is. That's what he wants to put the most into. And his, even at the combine, he met with teams, he talked with teams. He didn't throw. He didn't run. He definitely did not do the 40. He's like, I'm fast. I know I'm fast. I don't need to run. A lot of teams saw him as a wide receiver or a running back. I had him somewhere in that category too. Because, for the same reasons, it's just far too often that players that with his similar skill sets had just not been able to maintain a career at a quarterback position with the tendencies he had. I said Terrell Pryor when he came out should switch over to wide receiver. Flowers from USF. I said it when I was at the Shrine Bowl. I said I don't see Flowers as a quarterback in the NFL. And he's a wide receiver with the Tampa Bay Viper for the XFL. Terrell Pryor, I think he was on the waiver wire. He's injured too. So where he's at, I don't know. It turned out that he got pretty good. A pretty good wide receiver. So, where did that go? Sorry. Uh-oh. Bit of technical difficulty there. So, crew did not. All right. All right. My monitor's dying. You guys didn't want to plug that in? It's right here. The beauties of live broadcasting. All right, take two. All right. Yeah, I'm sitting here, the monitor just starts going dim. I'm like, what's going on? I had that resting George W. Bush face. I was like, what's going on here? Monitor got a little bit dim. So. All right. But as far as our MVP race goes for the NFL, is well warranted to look at Lamar Jackson as a league MVP. I don't have a vote there, but I definitely see why people see him as a league MVP. I mean, he is probably arguably the most valuable player to his team right now. He's the biggest reason that defenses are having to spend extra time in preparation. You know? How long will it be maintained? We'll see. We'll see. Again, Roman being could be a guy that they end up losing. So, see here. We do have a guest coming in about 10 minutes, but right now let me bring on. He is the host of the Boxing Source radio show. He's also one of our top football contributors, Mr. James Bell. How you doing, James?
Doing okay, Matt. How you doing this evening?
Not doing bad at all. Just taking a look into to Lamar Jackson. I know he's got a lot of push for league MVP. I don't have a vote there. I don't think you have a vote there either. But if you did,
nope.
Is Lamar Jackson your MVP?
I mean, I'd say he is. I don't know, like how far ahead he would be, but given the record that they have and how he's had a great season up to this particular point, I see him being the clear top candidate. I know you have other quarterbacks that are out there, the Patrick Mahomes or, like Russell Wilson or something like that. But I just feel that, the offense for Baltimore is, not what it is without Lamar Jackson and the threat that he has with his arm and his legs. So that's why I pretty much have him as the clear top candidate for most valuable player in the NFL.
Now, that aside, just his pure statistics alone, do you think there's any other player in the league that really does show a high value for their team? Who would it be?
High value for their team. That's the other thing. That's why I only brought up Russell Wilson. Because I can't really, think of, anyone else that kind of like is up there. If you look at, the teams that have the most impressive records, you have, the Baltimore Ravens and the New England Patriots in the AFC. But on the NFC side, you have 4 teams with a similar record. You have San Francisco, you have Seattle, you have Green Bay, and you have New Orleans. And San Francisco is the team that pretty much holds over 2 of those other 3 teams. Seattle holds the win over San Francisco. But with Francisco, I don't see like any one particular player that stands out for that team that's head and shoulders their most valuable player. You do have that with Seattle, like I said. New Orleans does have Drew Brees, but Brees has been out for a couple of games himself, and they still had a good record without Drew Brees. So that's like Lamar Jackson, as far as like his overall value to the means to that team, just surpasses every other player that's out there in the league right now.
How do you see him coming along as a passer?
I think I'm sure, he's improved as a passer. Being able to, decipher defensive coverages better than he used to. And that he's able to, look at his second and read pretty much in the pocket, not just, getting out of the pocket and throwing to a receiver that breaks off his route and tries to adjust to get open so that Lamar Jackson can throw the ball to him. But also with Lamar Jackson being able to stay in the pocket, look at his receivers, seeing that, okay, receiver one's not open, let's check receiver two. Two's not open, let's do the check down, or, the tight end is available. That's the type of things that, we want to look at as far as like his overall development as a quarterback. And he's kind of done that over the course of this particular season. And that, I feel that that's what makes him, have clear progress from last year to this year.
Well, and I think it's remarkable in coming in, so just week 15? Still 2 more weeks left of the regular season. He has surpassed Vic's rushing record. And he's staring down, again, it's a record-setting season. And let me ask you, here's one statistic. And I'm going to get into this. We'll jump back into this a little later on in the show after our guest. He actually has 3 more passing. He has the most passing touchdowns in the league right now with 33. 33 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. Tell me, how does it make your stomach feel to know that fact? And that's actually only 3 more touchdowns than Jameis Winston, who has the most passing yards in the league right now.
Well, in comparison to someone like Winston, though, the thing about it is that, with Lamar Jackson, his offense, their offense is, pretty much clicked very well. And, it's made it be a very productive and very efficient offense. In comparison to like a Jameis Winston, where, while, Winston does have passing yards, he does have the touchdowns. He also has the turnovers, the interceptions and fumbles.
Oh.
So you got to take that into account with someone like Winston, or someone like a Dak Prescott, who leads, has been part of the number 1 rated offense in the NFL, but that doesn't turn into points on the board all the time. I mean, he just did have a good little outing against the Rams, but other than that, they haven't been able to produce points on the board. So that's the thing with what you have with Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, is that while he's able to put or produce yards out there on the field, they result to touchdowns. They don't result through turnovers. How many turnovers? And or where they just
absolutely
have their offense.
So clearly higher on the efficiency measure. So, but right now we're going to switch gears. We're going to head on over talking a little bit more about basketball. If you watched the show or listened to the show last week, we had Coach Eddie Corporal on from the Gulf Coast Lions, part of the Basketball League, one of the minor pro leagues here in the United States, really the 3rd league, I would say, and talking about opportunities for athletes. And this is something, I've hit on a lot on this program and articles and stuff that I've written about this matter, and it is important to create opportunities for people. Again, this is creating jobs same way you're creating jobs in any other field. This just so happens to be a field that people probably aspire more to, really seeing, they say, just from going from college level on, about 2% of the athletes actually become professionals in any of the given sports. It's a very, very small margin. So clearly a plethora of talent available, just as not enough opportunity at the pro or semi-pro or developmental level to be able to facilitate that. And that being said, I welcome on to the show. He's the president of the Basketball League, Mr. David Magley. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you for coming on. Now, I know the league is a fairly new league, and you guys have went through a bit of transformation as well as growth, growing 6 teams over the past 2 years. And I understand that you have some aspirations on growing above and beyond that as well. Is that correct?
Yes, we're as you were saying in the intro, you know, we provide jobs for 144 young men. We would consider ourselves professional basketball because if we were in any other country in the world, we would be considered Pro B. The NBA would be the top. The G League would be Pro A, and we would be considered Pro B. Or if we were in baseball, you know, the NBA would be like MLB, and AAA baseball would be the G League, and we would be the Double A. But it means that there's also, you know, we're at 12 teams today. We think there's as many as 50 teams and 50 markets in North America that will grow to eventually. And then there's a whole concept of a single A league that we think is underserved as well. Something that doesn't pay quite what we do. It doesn't have quite the travel or quite as many games, but still has standards and still develops young men and give them a chance to be pros. If we do this the right way, our guys will come in our league, and perhaps then we'll go out during the season to other leagues around the world. I think that's a value-added piece of the players.
And I know when we talked a little earlier today, you remarked as it's somewhat of the G League for the world of basketball, not just specific to NBA or any one other major league, but really an outlet to professional teams throughout the rest of the world.
Yeah, we think that with our talent base, we are pre-qualifying guys that the rest of the world can look at. We have with our relationship with Sportscaster, a company that has investors like David Stern in it. We're able to live stream our product all over the world. So last year, 140 countries saw our guys play. That's factual because we have the demographics that prove that, and we have a partnership with Genius Sports, which is the largest live statting program that goes throughout FIBA and all over the world as well. So our guys can be viewed all over the world and have the stats in real time to people that are scouting our talent in a good level league that play in good venues of 2,000 plus that have the same branded uniforms from Infinite Apparel, and it's a good look. You know, our guys are everything from guys that have played at Duke and played at Kentucky to guys that are Division III guys that no one's ever heard of, but are great athletes that need a chance. So, you know, it's giving a lot of opportunity.
You know, that I always harken back to. There's a lot of guys I've talked to in the football that really appreciated a lot NFL Europe and being able to go over there because they came from small schools, HBCUs, FCS schools, and never were able to get the training and technology and even like the medical that they would at Division I or even definitely not in the NFL. And that was the first opportunity to be with professionals, you know, grown men, and being able to compete at a high level with grown men. Do you see that probably being one of the biggest, I don't know, assets you have, that you're playing with adults. This isn't kids fresh from high school, a bunch of kids that were in AAU, maybe the small town's best kid ever. This is a grown man's league.
Well, I think whereas I'm old and I played a long time ago when they still used peach baskets, but now when I played, you grew up on playgrounds. You didn't play AAU circuits. You didn't play in your own age group. You didn't know how you ranked in your own age group in your city or your county or your state or country. You just knew you weren't quite good enough to get in that first game picked with the men. And that's what you fought for, is a chance to play with the men one day. And then when you did, you didn't want to mess up, because if you made the team lose, you probably weren't getting picked again. You were going to get yelled at. You might get punched. So you realized that I better come and really learn how to play this game. And nothing felt better than when you did start getting picked early and you did win games and you did hold the court, because you always have all this built-in people watching you play every time, because there's 9 other guys on the court. Well, that all changed with the advent of the way we do youth basketball in America. In America, we keep our kids in their own age group. We actually reclassify them in the younger age groups so they can look better. The rest of the world trains their guys to be pros. In America, we train our guys to go to college. And that's the reason why Luka Doncic has been a pro since he was 16 and played against his first NBA talent when an NBA team went over to Spain and played against Badalona Juventud, and he played well. So by the time he was 19 and he walked across that stage and became an NBA player, everybody's shocked how good he is, but he's been playing against pros for 3 years. He's been playing against men and learning how to play. And you look at the Ricky Rubios and the Giannis and the different players in the NBA that are seemingly being taken by storm, when in reality they're just getting opportunities to play against older guys and growing up physically quicker because they have to. And I think that's an advantage of our league. When you look at all of the one-and-done guys that came out of college to go to one-and-done and then go straight to the NBA, most of those have never gone back to school and gotten a degree. I would say 99%. So why are we forcing them to college? We're forcing them because we want another year to look at them before they're ready in the NBA. So our option is there will be guys that will forego going to college, or they may be in high school and they'll play in our league as amateurs and still go to college. But they're going to get a chance to play against men, and men will challenge you differently. They will not. I played for that same team in Spain that Luka did, and if I was a 24, 25-year-old pro playing against a 16-year-old kid, I'd have put a hurting on him for a few months till he figured out how to play against me. Then he would have started learning how to compete, and the next year he would have probably brought it to me. And by the time he was 19, he would have probably been better than me, and the NBA would be interested because he's learned how to compete against men. And that's the advantage of playing against men, and that's something that I think we've lost in this country because we no longer even have the high school coaches have much say in what these kids do. It's the AAU coach who's not necessarily a trained coach. He's somebody that has a bloodline to a really talented kid. And now I'm an AAU coach. Doesn't mean he knows how to coach. It just means he was fortunate to win the lottery on the gene pool.
Do you think the AAU mentality has kind of bled over into college basketball?
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think that you're watching more and more guys that are, I once talked to a top player, a kid that was a very high draft pick this year. And the kid was a young player at the time, and he was the dad told me that if I want him to go to a prep school, I, number one, have to be prepared to pay, and whether that's money or it's full scholarship or whatever, which I understand that. But then he said you have to be able to commit a certain amount of minutes that he's guaranteed to play, that you have to play a certain kind of offense, and he has to be guaranteed a certain number of shots. Well, where and there is he has to earn anything? That's a different mindset. And I guarantee you that there's people that negotiate that way with college coaches. Listen, you're not getting this kid unless he's going to play this amount of minutes, this amount of time, this amount of shots, and you won't get any more of my kids if you don't give them what we're demanding of you. Well, that's a whole lot different than back in the day, so to speak. Because back in the day, you had to be able to help that coach win, and if you weren't able to help that coach win, you were not going to be happy with the result of what was going to happen. So it really was a different look all the way around.
Do you feel, because I mean we see now, you look at the Nike top 250 or the top 250 rankings, and usually at the top 25, half of those guys end up being in the first round of the respective class. Is again a lot of that AAU that bleeds over. Do you think that maybe, again, the league that you guys probably closestly compete with is the G League? I know their salaries went up quite a bit, but do you think a lot of it has to do with because of those salaries that they have to guarantee to first round picks that need more development and have to go down to the G League? I know they said was the stat that 40%.
I do think that the NBA has decided to make the G League much more of a development league than ever before. I mean, the fact that 85% of the G League teams are now within an hour of their NBA parent. You know, there's one team in Sioux Falls, South Dakota that's connected to Miami.
Is the Hawks?
That, most of the teams are
Battle Hawks
really close, and they're working them now as JVs, so that you take your, you look at the kid that's doing so well with Toronto right now, Pascal Siakam.
Yeah,
he spent 2 years in the G League, and that was an hour away. Mississauga to Toronto's an hour. So I'm certain he trained with the NBA team. He went and got some burn with the G League, and then he moved him up and down. And that makes a lot of sense for development. The good news for us is that left a lot of geography empty. The Bakersfield, Californias, to the Reno, Nevadas, to the Boise, all of those markets once had G League or D League teams, and they will never get that market again because they're a 1-to-1 ratio with their NBA. So for us, there's all these wonderful markets to expand into. As you said earlier, there's so much talent that we can never dilute our product because there's so many players that can really play that just need the opportunity. So if we double our size next year, that means 188 young men get to be pro basketball players in America with a chance to grow and play anywhere else in the world from here. So it's a good opportunity, I think.
Let me ask you this. Do you think in order to be, again, we kind of talked about, somewhat, you touched on somewhat of a minor league system, not exactly, with direct access to the teams like the G League, not that it's needed. Actually, that's more so the question. Do you think to be a true developmental league or a true minor professional league that you need to have a direct connect with any parent or higher level team?
No,
or
I don't. I think
or
one
league?
of the things we're going to do, one of the things we'll be doing this year is we'll be announcing that we're going to form our own agency, a TBL reps, so to speak, where we're going to be able to promote all of our players to countries and teams all over the world. We will work with existing agents and help them, but we're also going to promote these guys. And I think that's where our real niche is right now. Will there be guys in our league that will go to the G League, ultimately the NBA someday? Sure. But that's not the lion's share of where our guys are going to go. There's a lot more jobs all around the world than there are just in the NBA. So for us, we really want to be that breeding ground that you put guys in and they become, it's more of a showcase version than it is just straight development. We want guys to get better, but we also want to be able to give them a place to show their skills.
So you're looking at more of the systemic method versus the, direct injection.
Yes, and again, part of that is because the NBA has a very systematic belief system of where they're going. They want to get younger and younger players. I mean, I'm a Kansas graduate, and in the last 3 years, We've had 2 National Players of the Year or consensus All-Americans, a kid named Frank Mason and a kid named Devontae Graham. Frank was drafted the 47th pick of the draft, and Devontae was drafted 44th or 48th. There's some pretty far down. And you ask, how is it possible for the best player in college basketball, or one of the best players, to have 46 guys better than them in the draft? The answer was, on both occasions, they were 22 or 23-year-old seniors, and the NBA thought they were too old. Now, Devontae's up for probably, most improved player this year in the NBA. He's having a fabulous year for the Charlotte team. And Frank's a two-way player that's playing in and out of the Milwaukee system. But they're both impacting NBA teams, but they were almost forgotten because of their age. And the NBA wants guys so early anymore. They want them at 18, 19, 20 that they can develop. And they believe that after 3 or 4 years, it's been too long. And I'd rather have a younger guy that I can have more time with. But these guys are proving that staying at college has benefited them.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we can step in. We will help develop a kid that is younger, that maybe wasn't ready for the NBA or the G League, and 2 or 3 years later they go, wow, this kid's really good. Let's get him in a summer league and see what can happen.
So we're just talking about the fan base. What can the fan base hope for when they come to see a TBL team or TBL games, or watch it on Sportscaster?
It's going to be entertaining. I mean, people come to watch pro basketball, so it's a 48-minute game like the NBA. But because of my time in Canada, I really like the FIBA offensive-defensive goaltending rule. So we have that where you can take the ball off the rim on defense or dunk it back in on offense. It makes for a more fun game. You'll see great dancers. You'll see good DJs. You'll see cheerleaders. You'll see mascots. You'll see kids being involved in games during the game, whether that's playing or it's just things for T-shirts. Additionally, you're going to see our guys in the community. One of the visions of this league comes from my wife. She's the CEO. She's historic as the first African-American female to own a male pro sports league. And my wife has the vision, Evelyn, of creating an opportunity for these young men to use their celebrities to impact other people. So rather than just use it to get a girlfriend or to get some money, that's shallow. Let's teach them how to reach down to these young people that are looking up to them, that need encouragement. Whether they can play basketball or not, when our guys walk into school and they're 6'9" and they look like somebody that's different from anybody else in the school in these smaller towns, it means a lot. And we're able to really, I think, touch a life and make it better. And that's what we want to do. And in doing so, we think we benefit our guys as well because they're learning how to give back. And those are the things that I think our fans will fall in love with. When they get to know our guys, these are great young men. And they just need a chance to showcase that. And we want to teach them how to use that to impact even more people. And I think that community piece will really help set us apart from any other league.
And that's tremendous, being able to influence the communities you're in. Because, again, with the exception to the NFL and probably the top end of college football and maybe a couple teams in Major League Baseball, or any league, everything's very hyper-local. So being able to touch that local base is key. Now, I know you've made some remarks that, you played back in the day. Coach Eddie Corporal was saying last week that you harken back to the Big 7 days. Is that accurate?
Big 8.
Big 8.
Yeah, I played in the Big 8 before they got the Texas schools in. The Texas schools back then were all in the Southwest Conference, and but we had some great rivalries with Missouri and Kansas State and the Oklahoma schools and the like. And I played to date me. My freshman year in college, I played against Magic Johnson and Michigan State the year they won the national championship. And my senior year in college, I played against Michael Jordan his first game as a freshman the year they won the national championship. So that kind of gives you the era that I played against some pretty good players. And I love how they say, well, these guys are so much more athletic than back then. Well, my
I don't know about that.
James Worthy is number 1, Dominique Wilkins is number 2, and Terry Cummings is number 3, and all three are every bit as athletic as anybody today.
Yeah, unfortunately, my Cornhuskers didn't fare any better then than they do now. So against Kansas,
Well, you know what? Believe it or not, Matthew, we struggled with Nebraska at Nebraska. There was something about the
95.
Like in my 4 years at KU,
That's what I remember.
We never beat them. They just played. They had a coach named Mo Iva that played a really slow down game. Now keep in mind, there were no shot clocks and no 3-pointers. So if you could hold the ball, and they had a 5'6" white kid named Jackie Moore from Indiana that could dribble all day, and if you fouled him, he was the leading free throw shooter in the country. So if they could shrink the game and they could keep it close, they were in it. Now when we went to the field house, we'd open it up and put a curtain on them. But boy, when we played them at Nebraska, we didn't do very well.
Well, it was always kind of it's a very intimate atmosphere. It's not like intimate like you get at Indiana, but it is no. The stadium seating makes it feel like the entire arena is on top of you. It almost feels like a tennis arena inside. So,
yeah, that's a good call. My daughter was a pro tennis player, and I think that's a really good, accurate call. It's like you're playing at the Lipton or something. It was really pretty cool.
Well, you'll have to check out the Pinnacle Bank Arena now. That's their new stadium that they play in. They've had for 4 years now. And every time you buy a drink downtown, you pay a little extra tax to pay for it. But it's really a magnificent facility.
Well, I'll tell you, we had a kid one time that went to Nebraska that we recruited at KU, and he came down to visit. I think his name was Hoppin or Hobson or something like that. And he came down to visit the KU, and I was his host, and we went to the Nebraska-Kansas game. Sat in the press box with us and cheered for Nebraska the whole time. Could visit it because he wanted to see the Nebraska football team, who had more red shirts in our football stadium than we had blue ones.
We travel well.
Their football is just unbelievable.
In a year where we only ended up with 5 wins, I think we had more fans in the Colorado stadium than Colorado did. And that's a game they won.
You might have. Well, they would. There were Nebraska fans that would buy Kansas season tickets on the years that they played at KU.
Yeah.
Because it was cheaper to just buy a KU season ticket and be guaranteed a seat than have to go down and scalp one when it was sold out. For that
and you usually get a better seat too if you do it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know several people that would do that.
We would sell our seats. We had a hill that went down into the called the Campanile Hill that would go down into the stadium, and it would be easier for us to sell our tickets to Nebraska fans and sit on the hill and watch the game than go in.
My regular co-host, he's under the weather this week, but he wrote this novel series called the P.K. Frazier novel series, and in his first book, P.K. Frazier is the character is a broadcaster, and he actually broadcasted the game Nebraska, Kansas at Bob Devaney where Nebraska won. It was in 95. And it's crazy because, like with historic novels, you use real dates, real events. He used real scores, real players, everything. And it was I literally put the book down and went back and looked and like, who's P.K. Frazier? Like, is this a real person? And then he's like, no, it's a novel. It's a made up character. But it was kind of a little bit mind blowing for me. But it was fun because I got goosebumps reading it because I was at the game.
That's cool.
So, but
that's real cool. And you mentioned being from Indiana. One of the great things about going to Kansas is in the Indiana high school basketball is unlike anywhere in the world. And Dr. Naismith famously said the basketball was born in Massachusetts, but it was raised in Indiana. And part of that is because, we have 3,000 to 10,000 seat gyms that they sell out. But back when I played 100 years ago, every game. So when I went to Kansas, it was really cool to be in the field house because I love the tradition. But the fact that there were 15 or 16,000 fans wasn't any more impressive to me than having 4,000 fans in Plymouth, Indiana, when you went to play them, because it was pretty darn exciting to be a part of that experience growing up. And we kind of hope to capture some of that with our league. The Albany Patroons play in the Armory, and the Washington Avenue Armory is you walk in and you feel like Jake LaMotta should be fighting Sugar Ray Robinson with smoke going on. And
they do fight there.
It's got that old, and
they still do fights there.
And I played there for Phil Jackson, so it's so cool when that place packs out. It's just the nostalgia just oozes out of the bricks, and I think in a lot of our venues you're going to see that happening this year.
Well, I truly look forward. Your season kicks off beginning of February, and I look forward to getting a closer look. I know you just near me here. You have the Tampa Bay Titans and the Gulf Coast Lions, just on this coast here, and then Dayton on the other coast, right?
And those are going to be both. Those would be both great teams because there's so much talent just in that Central Florida area that you can start your team with, and both teams will have complementary pieces from guys all over the world. So you're going to want to come out and watch those guys play because it's going to be fun. Absolutely.
Well, it's been wonderful having you on.
I know Gulf Coast has a major rapper named Tom G. That's a Tampa legend. I was checking him out today. There's 162,000 followers on his Instagram page.
Yeah.
We're expecting to sell out that first game for Gulf Coast, which will be really cool when he comes and performs.
And they just had their last tryout, I think, a couple days ago, right, on the Saturday, on the 14th. So
yeah, they did. They had their last Florida-based one. They have one in Chicago because Martin Benders, their GM, who's been in our league a couple of years now, is doing a great job down there. And he's looking for sponsors and partners that really want to get a part of it. That's what's great is you can be a part of our league and support us without a lot of money. It's not like we're looking for millions of dollars, but a few $1,000s here and there makes all the difference in the world. So, you want to reach out to Martin with the I think it's Martin Benders at GulfCoastLions.com.
Yep.
Or Martin at GulfCoastLions.com. And they'll be more than happy to get you involved with that first game and the other ones. But I appreciate you having me on and allowing us to share our vision because
absolutely,
I think in the next few years people will know who we are. It's going to be a household name because we do things the right way.
That's wonderful. And thank you for coming on, David. You're welcome back anytime.
Appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. All right. And that's the other great thing. We talked about, like I said, talk about developmental leagues, and you can just hear David's experience from playing in the NCAA, playing in the NBA, playing overseas. He was previously, before this position he held, he was a commissioner of the Canadian National Basketball League. And since the inception of what was last year was called the North American Premier Basketball League, it's now just called the Basketball League, TBL, shortened, expanding teams. And I'll have an article out this week. It talks a little bit more about the need and kind of looking at kind of the trap that is that some of these developmental leagues have fallen into. And I just want to hit out on one point. I know with the AAF, and that's the Alliance of American Football League, that fell apart 2 weeks in to the league. Fell apart. They didn't have funding. Now, clearly, football is a much more expensive sport to fund. Just from the simple liability, just the insurance portion alone is astronomically different. But it kind of harkened back. I know Tom Dundon, who ended up becoming, the CEO of the league after infusing $250 million into the league in February to help make payroll. I mean, he said he and I'm gonna paraphrase here. Said it was needed for the AAF to partner with the NFL, and it was necessary for the NFLPA to approve the use of active NFL players. And in a sense, kind of, hinted at, in not so many words, that the NFLPA, in part, was to blame for the collapse of the AAF, simply because they couldn't use active players. I mean, you have more players in this country that play football coming out of college than basketball. I mean, basketball has 18 team roster, 15 or 16 for the travel. It's not like they have, I mean, college football teams can have, I think it's 90 for away games, and then as many as, I think, 150 for home games. 120, 150 for home games. It's crazy. That is a lot of people. If you have a team and a third of the team doesn't travel, I mean, wow. That's a lot of people that are on the team that aren't traveling. That's also a lot of people that played in the sport that are coming out every 3, 4, 5 years. Again, about 2% of college athletes end up going pro in any of the sports. And that's not saying just the top level leagues. That's in any of the leagues. So opportunity truly is really the biggest enemy of athletes, I mean, these athletes today have more access to information, to training. I mean, you can, or you should be able to, in a sense, throw a bit more on athletes today than you could in the past, just simply because of the access to training and stuff that they have had to this point. I mean, you used to not be able to, if you didn't understand a certain type of offense, you'd have to find somebody that was proficient to explain that to you. But today, you can go on YouTube. You can literally do film study on YouTube or on Hurdle or on a number of other areas. So many guys have video and publish video out there. But still, it's usually not enough, because the biggest thing that these pro leagues and teams look for is film and how they can see you in person. That's why tryouts are so important. I think that the leagues don't do enough to publish tryouts. All of them. Not pinpointing any one league. But clearly, leagues like the NFL, they closed down the NFL Europe because it was, I think they were losing some millions, $30 million or so annually. That's why they closed it down. They were losing money. But that's back before the television rights were astronomical. Before they were pushing the NFL every year, actual NFL teams, into the UK and into Europe, into Mexico, Canada. You know, I know there's a bit of friction between the NFL and CFL in regards to if the NFL should be able to have teams in Canada. Because Toronto has been one of those markets the NFL has eyed. It tests very high. It's a very transient city. There's a lot of Americans that live in Toronto, live and work in Toronto. And people from throughout the globe. So it's a very international city, very, very conducive to what the NFL is looking for as far as its fan base. The NFL wants to have the fan following like soccer does on a world stage. But a lot of people outside the U.S., outside really, North and Central America mostly, really struggle with the concept and play of the game. They feel that the constant starting, stopping each play, the heavy hitting, that it doesn't make sense. Again, that's an opinion people are allowed to have. But I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that watch, La Liga or Premier League and see a guy that falls on the ground and grabs his ankle for, 5.5 minutes and then steps up and runs down the field without really even testing the ankle. As kind of like, really? Starting and stopping, this is, yeah, sure. But having these developmental leagues are pinnacle. And if you have developmental leagues or teams in your area, I always am a big proponent of supporting whatever your local team is. A lot of people say, like when I was in Tampa, I'd see people who are Yankee fans. Well, they only go to Rays games when the Yankees come into town. I was born a Yankee fan. I get that. But the whole reason your Yankees are able to show up in town is because the Rays have a team here. The Yankees aren't going to all of a sudden start playing half their games, in Tampa Bay. It's not going to happen. So, if you don't support your local teams, if you don't go out to the games, again, when you look at the revenue where teams get it from, NBA teams, Major League Baseball, NFL, NHL teams, a lot of those teams, their biggest source of income usually draws from massive network deals. NFL being the most, and they're able to understand. That's why I think a lot of NFL teams have went away from blackouts, even though you still see them here and there. For a large part, you see they go away from the blackouts. So buy up the remaining seats so the team can get exposure. And plus, it's easier nowadays to find a way to get those out of market, to get a broadcast for your market from out of market, i.e. the internet, streaming. So fighting it is just doing more to upset fans than actually bring fans to the game. I think the NFL, when they did the Super Bowl in Minnesota, actually did a good job of getting fans engaged in the game. because that U.S. Bank Stadium, they've done a tremendous job, not only with the looks, but it's basically a giant Wi-Fi antenna. So you get really high-end Wi-Fi throughout the entire stadium. So it can handle the constant social media, streaming, stuff like that at the game to attract fans or to have fans interact while they're at the game. And I know they try to put up more screens of live action and stuff during the game. Because if you're talking about the product of just watching it, yes, TV is better for watching it because it gives you close-up, unique angles. This is one of the geniuses of the XFL. They literally gave you video game views in a real game. And the NFL stole that idea and stuff away and have ran with it. So I know the XFL has been trying to experiment with helmet cams and on-person cams for players. The NFL has, done mic'd up players. They do it every game. They pick a coach, a player from offense, defense, and they mic them up. But the big question now is how can you provide the experience in person from an entertainment level that really is going to, other than the fact that you're in person, that's going to trump what you see on television? That's really what the question is. Because if you want more average fans to go, you have to give more of a reason to go. And I say it all the time: $9 beers and $14 hot dogs are not the surefire way to get people in the door or buying concessions. So other avenues have to be looked at to boost attendance. But that's why, he harkened back to the community outreach, being able to be a part of their community, be active in the community, doing appearances, and showing their face around other than on a court. So smaller communities like Sarasota, Bradenton, where the golf course Lions are, and the Tampa Bay area, the Tampa Bay Titans play out of Palm Harbor now, I believe, which is over Pinellas County area. It's not in Tampa anymore, but it's still Tampa Bay, Upper Bay. So it's a tremendous opportunity for people. I just think we all need to push and create more awareness to help get those who need or are looking for opportunity in those places. Again, you see the AAF fall apart 2 weeks into the league, and for 3 straight years, this league has expanded. And from my understanding, source tells me that the league plans on doubling that next year. Doubling what they've done next year. That's huge. The president just said they feel that they have the potential of 50 teams in 50 different markets. That's really not crazy. If you look at market sizes, I think Milwaukee is something like 63rd, It's not even... So to think that you have an NBA team already in that city and a Major League Baseball team, to think that you could have potential of 50 teams in 50 different markets is not that crazy at all. The one thing I found out is also it's unique. This league, if you want to play on the team and own the team at the same time, that is currently an option. Obviously, if you're the right partner for the league. Also, agencies, they can buy a team. If you own a team in a different league or in a different country, own a team in a different league, you could buy a franchise. With basketball, it's a lot more affordable to buy into a franchise, especially at these levels. You're not building a stadium. You're not having to manufacture that sort of infrastructure for the team. You're looking at, I believe their salaries, are that like mid-level European League teams. The way right there with the D League before it became the G League. And I'm telling you, the G League, their salaries have went up because the kids that are coming out of college, the one and dones, are not NBA ready. They're not NBA ready. So because they're going in the first round, they have these guarantees. They end up down in the G League. Hey, if you feel like you want to come out of high school, you don't want to go to college, you're just want to go play basketball, play in the league. Play in the basketball. Play in the TBL. Go straight to the G League. Go to Europe. Go to Australia. Look at LaMelo Ball. LaMelo, for a large part, people talked about, oh, yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. But around scouts and NBA circles, they're like, He went down and played with guys this past year in Australia in the Pro League. And now they're looking at him as a first round pick. You play around people that are older, that are more mature, that are more physically developed, and have good skills and play at a high level. That's going to make you way better. Way better than a bunch of kids your age. No matter how coveted they may be. I guess I put it this way. I think the kids that think they're all that, go try to play with the men's leagues. If you can. If they allow you. Because I remember what he was talking about. I remember back when I was 13, 14, 15, we go out to the Air Park Rec in Lincoln, and half the Nebraska squad was there. So, we're out there playing Mikey Moore, Teron Lou, and man, you didn't want to be the one that was missing shots or definitely not missing layups. And if you were getting rebounds, getting it out to somebody that can take a shot if you don't have it. You didn't want to get in the way and provide as much as you can. Especially if you were, a kid. Because you sign up, you get next. If it's your name there, you pick your team. So, but anyways, I'm gonna move back into NFL talk. We were talking a little bit about it before the top of the hour, and I want to get into the topic of Jameis Winston. So to do that, I'm gonna bring James Bell back on. Jameis Winston is some sort of, I don't know, amoeba. The guy seems to have the highest highs and the lowest lows. He holds the current record for anybody from his draft class on with the most 5 interception games over the course of the span of time. In the league, not just his class, anybody in the league. And Johnny Manziel played during that time in Cleveland, and he looked pretty terrible. But still, we see 30 touchdowns, 24 interceptions, 4,600 yards, and the question is, does Tampa sign him? Do they franchise tag him, or do they let him go? Now, James, I know you've been a pretty staunch critic of him since college. What do you make of the dilemma that Tampa Bay is looking at right now?
I mean, it's a very bad one because, right now, they're pretty much at a bad spot. I was just on this thing here, for Jameis Winston, right? We're talking about his stats for this year.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's put up those numbers. But thing about it is that one of the things that the key with the quarterback is your win and loss record. And right now, this particular year, they're at 7-7. Okay, and if they get 2 more wins, then they'll be at 9-7 for the season, which has only happened only one other time in the course of Jameis Winston's career. He's pretty much he's on pace to have over 5,000 yards passing this season. And I think he's right now. I think he is leading the league in passing yards.
Yeah, he is.
He's also leading the league in interceptions.
Yes, he is.
And the other thing is that he's also fumbled the ball 12 times season. So there have been multiple years where he's fumbled the ball over 10 times or more in the season, and having the amount of interceptions that he's had this year, the most interceptions that he's had over the course of his professional career. So I mean, it's kind of looking like, am I going to go ahead and go forward with this as far as like a long-term deal with Jameson? I don't know. I think they're going to franchise him. I feel like they're going to franchise him because it's like, okay, you have this year, and some of the fans or some of the people around Tampa might say, "Oh, the offensive line isn't that good. The running backs that they've had, they ain't been up to par, and that type of thing." But for me, it's like, even if you have all of that, look at what Jameis Winston has done himself as a player, the decisions that he has made as a player. Are you willing to have a long-term commitment with a player like Jameis Winston that has made the same decisions that you have seen over the course of his professional career? I mean, this is, something that, they kind of seen here with Jameis, and, they coach there, Bruce Arians, and, Bruce is supposed to be a difference maker for Jameis, and, I mean, yeah, he's had this, year where he's throwing a lot of, thrown for a lot of passing, but he's leading the league in passing attempts too. So it's like, how does the front office in Tampa Bay gauge this season for Jameis Winston? Is it an overall good year for Jameis Winston? Is it an average year? Is it above average with the passing yards or whatever it is? Or do you see that this is going to be the same thing that you've seen over the past 4+ years while having a number 1 overall pick? And for me, I just feel that they're going to just have an option with a 1-year deal with Winston and franchise tag him. They're not going to trade him. I don't think they'll trade him. So I think it's just going to be franchised.
Yeah, I think that's really the option. I know I kind of went back and forth with a few guys about it, and some have said ideally you'd like to look at a 3-year contract. It's 2 years with a 3rd-year team option. Kind of, it's similar to a contract you'd see for a guy that's like a 6th or 7th round pick, kind of like. But this way, they're saying you give him 15 to 20 million guaranteed up front, and then it's kind of based on performance beyond that. And that's not bad. I think where if you did a contract that was multi-year, you have to look at only guaranteeing him the money that you would if you franchise tagged him a year. And that's it. That's the guaranteed money, because it would basically be the same play as a franchise tag, except for you would be able to own his rights for 2 to 3 years. And I do think that is ideally for the team probably the best option, because you can cut bait after that first year. Or if it's a contract, technically during that first year,
90 seconds,
and you may not be on the hook for the full guarantee. So just to let people know that are listening in on Blog Talk Radio, we're heading into the overtime segment. For those of you that are on Spreaker, on Facebook, on Sportscaster, or listening to any of the podcast versions of the show, it doesn't apply to you. Just people listening live on Blog Talk. So go to Spreaker.com, download the free Spreaker app.
60 seconds.
Check us out on Facebook. Check us out now on Sportscaster. And don't miss any time on the show. But I just think that that's the best team-friendly option out there for Jameis, but I don't know if they'll do that, because it would give him an option, this year or next year to draft a quarterback. From my understanding, Bruce Arians likes Jameis. He said that before the season, and we've seen him take guys. Just think. He was there when Peyton Manning was having issues with throwing a lot of interceptions. That clearly turned itself around. Ben Roethlisberger,
10 seconds.
Same sort of situation. Struggling with throwing interceptions and making dumbass decisions. And they kind of worked themselves out under his tutelage. So maybe he keeps him. Maybe he feels that some of that, what's the word, dumbassness that that pops up in Jameis's decision making, that he can kind of massage that out. So we'll see. Because I think we were both kind of under the impression taking him as high as you did in the draft probably wasn't the best, and he needed time to develop. I think he's proven that. He's needed time to develop. I ultimately don't think that he has developed. I think he's kind of, after the second or third year in the league, his development has kind of stunted up until, partway through this season, and he's looked much better. Again, maybe those high highs that we're seeing are because of Bruce, and that is that's kind of settling in a bit, but it's clearly in a situation where over the course of your career you hold the record for most 5 interception games. Again, this is also a time period where we had a guy go in Buffalo and throw 1 5 interception game, and and he never lived that down, not even after the guy goes to a different team. So I don't know. He's put him in a really tight, tough position, because the thing, it's crazy. He's like, yes, we need to sign him long term. His lows are like, well, we can cut him now. Like, it's literally the highest highs and the lowest lows. He leads the league in yardage. He's second in touchdowns thrown. He leads the league in interceptions. He's among the top of the league in fumbles, and he's third in the league in sacks. So he is the epitome. You have to take the bad with the good. And the bad has contributed to being a 500 team. If he doesn't make some dumb decisions, if he doesn't let some balls sail, if he works on his touch, you probably see less interceptions and more wins. It's with even in his career game, where he puts up 4 touchdowns in the game and just balled out. It seemed to have like half of his yards for the season in one game. It seemed like he almost lost that game at the end with a pick 6. He almost gave the game away. So there is never a point in a game, and he's quarterbacking, that you can feel safe that the game is under wraps. Not at all. Anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, and that's another part too that could, go into the stats that he has, is that, and I kind of like, was saying that in his rookie year, in that a lot of the games where he had a lot of yards, or whatever it was, they came in at the back end of the game where the game was undecided, where the Bucks already. But here it's like, they have to use him in order to, get back in the game, or, try to, stay on pace with the other team, So, yeah, all those mistakes that he has, man, whether it's the interceptions that he gets that leads to them trailing by a lot, or, having it to the point where he has to make a play in order to understand the game. That's why they're, using him as much as they are. but nothing to where he has an efficient type of a football game where he makes the right decisions time after time after time to where he doesn't throw that many interceptions or he doesn't intercept at all. I mean, then that every single game, I know that he's going to throw an interception. I said, the last game that he had, I was like, yo, there's 3 guarantees in life. That taxes and Jameis Winston throwing an interception. And, I mean, it's kind of like be like that with Winston. And as a franchise, when you're supposed to have him as the franchise quarterback, he can't be making those types of mistakes that cost the team the game. And you expect him to be your quarterback for the long term. About 5 to 10 years or something like that. Is the front office ready to commit 5 to 10 years of their salary or their salary, their budget towards a quarterback that makes those type of mistakes?
And that's the thing
I'm
is,
like, no, I don't think they're ready for that quite yet.
If that's the case, what's the going rate for a franchise quarterback in the league?
It's pretty high.
Is that
Pretty high,
what
isn't
you
it?
want to pay Jameis Winston?
Yeah, and the thing about it is this what we right now is kind of similar to what Washington was dealing with. They had Kirk Cousins. Because you think about, the time that they had Kirk Cousins, that team, that Redskins team, was pretty much teetering around competing for the playoff berth and not competing for playoff berth. And then I think they had one game. I think it was a home game against the New York Giants, and they could that game, and they would have been. I think they would have been qualified for the playoffs. And Kirk Cousins had a bad game, whatever it is, and didn't end up making the playoffs, and so they pretty had to go with that decision to try to franchise him. And the next time around, they just didn't want to have a long-term deal with him, and Kirk Cousins ends up going to the Minnesota Vikings. And the first year with the Minnesota Vikings, he didn't do all too well, but this year they're doing pretty good. They have they're getting there as a 6th seed for the right now, and he's looking fairly well. But is Tampa Bay willing to do the same thing with Jameis Winston, who doesn't, he throws, like I said, to a lot of yards, but throws for a lot of interceptions. And my thing has been with quarterbacks is that you go for as much as you want to throw, but the main is don't lose the game, the team. Don't turn the ball over. And Jameis Winston turns the ball over a lot. And you can't have that if you're wanting to become a playoff contender, if you want to compete for a Super Bowl championship. You can't have that on your team.
The other bit of news, there's a couple other things I want to. Josh Gordon today was announced by the league that he is suspended indefinitely, again, for violating the substance policy and the performance enhancing substance policy. He got caught. 2 things. So for Josh Gordon, I think a lot of us thought maybe, after after it seemed like this season that it would, or last season it was really going to work out with the Patriots, probably wouldn't see him back again. He came back this year and was released and then picked up off waivers by Seattle. He played and did contribute and looks like a quality NFL receiver. I don't know how is the substance is. The substance that he's on or taking, or how much that has aided him in his level of performance. But is this the last time we ever in the league? He's been suspended 5 times. 5 times. Is this the end of Josh Gordon?
For me, I think it's a wrap for him, man.
I mean, he's 28.
My thing about it,
I think he's about to turn 28. He's still within that rung. It's crazy guys like Des Bryant that hits 30, spent most of his time with the Cowboys, and struggles to get a gig. Where this guy just screws up over and over and over again, and still, like, yeah, but he's not hitting women or kids, so maybe we can work it out. You know? It's like he's abusing himself, not people. So it works. We can figure it out. You know, I don't know. I feel like it has to be a wrap for him. If you're advising him in his career, you've already been suspended 5 times. When you're literally the wrong cough syrup away from being suspended indefinitely again, is it worth the time and energy and effort to rehab and come back and prove you're not going to end even though you've already done it 5 times? You know, is it worth time and agony? I mean, he literally was caught with the double the performance enhancing and recreational this time. You know? And again, I don't know. Maybe the Patriots knew it and Seahawks found out. Maybe the team turned him in. I don't know. Because they wanted to get out of the contract. I don't know. You'd almost think that, I don't know, that he just doesn't want to play. Or maybe he does. There are so many resources available to people in the National Football League. There are, just psychologists, psychiatrists, addiction specialists, counselors, so much support groups. All this stuff is available as a benefit. Oh, by the way, you make millions, so you could afford to pay for it too. You know? So, the fact that it continues to be the same problem and it isn't getting better, clearly, whatever board structure he's put there, it's bad for him. Second, this is clearly decisions that he's making and he wants to be involved in. Because you don't do something 5 times and say, I want to have nothing to do with it. When you have resources, I can get it. See, that's the thing is like, I get it. If there's a certain lifestyle or a certain career path you have to take, lack of options or lack of opportunities. But when you have money and you have resources and you choose not to use them, that's something completely different. You know? That's just a person that doesn't or can't figure out how to make good decisions. And I could tie that back into Jameis Winston and 24 interceptions and umpteen fumbles, but I'm not going to. I think it has to be the end of his NFL career at this point. Especially with a whole lot. I mean, we're seeing more and more guys come into the league every single year. And the guys that are coming in seem to be as talented. So, we'll see where that comes from. The other bit of news is it seemed that when the Arizona Cardinals it was determined that they weren't going to get anywhere, Terrell Suggs decided that he was going to stop showing up to team meetings and stuff like that, and the stuff that doesn't contractually link to his pay. And they decided to with the understanding that the Baltimore Ravens were going to pick him up off waivers. And he stated that that's actually the only team that he would entertain, signing an offer for. Well, the Kansas City Chiefs, needing some help along the defensive front, claimed him, essentially blocking the Ravens. What do you think comes of this? Do you think you see Terrell Suggs saying, sure, I'll play in Kansas City this year? Or is he gonna fight to try to get back on waivers to end up in Baltimore?
I don't know, man. For who is it? For Suggs, man, he should have known how the whole waiver situation goes. I mean, the thing is basically, based on the team's record. So, Baltimore is going to be last on the list. So, if anybody else was, interested in picking them up, then that's what was going to, happen. They were going to pick them up before Baltimore was going to pick them up, especially if, seeing that it was Suggs that he would have had, or these GMs or whatever it was, had in the back of them that Suggs wanted to get back on Baltimore. So they're like saying, hey, let me scoop him before he even, before he ends up getting on that list for the Ravens. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that Kansas City, would, try to go ahead and pick him up. They could definitely use him. But who knows if Suggs is going to want to stay with the Kansas City Chiefs.
From my sources have said that he does plan on reporting, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he signs and agrees to go in any sort of direction at this point. So it is a wait and see. Obviously, Kansas City, they're far enough down the list. Obviously, they're probably outside of Baltimore in the AFC. Those are the two front-ranking teams for the playoffs. Again, I know nobody. It doesn't do well to your wallet to bet against Tom Brady and the Patriots. So even though they haven't looked good at all, it's tough to say, yeah, they're done. I don't know. I feel like the Bills could win that division. It's within reach for them to do it.
No, they gotta win on the road.
They They won in Pittsburgh this weekend. Close game.
Yeah, that was a good game. That was a pretty good game, though. Yeah, that was a pretty good game, man.
Josh Allen looked good.
I like that game.
They got the Patriots in Foxborough, and then the Jets at home. That's their last two games.
Yep.
As funny as it sounds, both very winnable games for them. They did beat the Patriots the last time around, but I don't think that there's been any team in the last, 20 billion years, it seems that, 2 decades, since dinosaurs, that have beaten the Patriots twice in a season. Definitely not the Dolphins. Actually, I think the Dolphins was the last team to do it. Like 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Back when they had that one season that was kind of a miracle season for them. They had Ndamukong Suh. Who else? Had a bunch of guys. Kind of loaded. Back when they had the great Ryan Tannehill, of course. Who could forget? Landry. Who else did they have there? I was just talking with actually a guy that came out in the draft a few years ago. He ended up doing training camp with the Dolphins. He got cut by the Bucs, ended up going down to Miami and was with the Dolphins. And that team was pretty stacked from what I recall. They had it was the year before Landry left Miami and went to Cleveland. So 3 years ago. Kenny Stills, Landry. I can't think off the top of my head. But pretty solid team. So, all right, I wanted to get into some of the bowl games here, and I'm gonna pick some bowl games. We have like 20 minutes or so left in the show, so I picks, and I will not disappoint. Other than an issue with my monitor dying on me during the show, we've had a pretty mistake-free show. I mean, I don't know about you guys on who can see the show on Facebook and on Sportscaster, but I'm very proud of my tiny Christmas tree here. It's wonderful. I mean, I think it's very representative of all sports. I mean, we got Muhammad Ali, Elway, King Griffey, Nolan Ryan. We even got the King down here, Richard Petty, Hank Aaron, Emmitt Smith, Shaq. And again, it's not Shaq as a Laker. It's not even Shaq with the Magics. It's Shaq with Shaq gear. I think it's Shaq Fu Shaq.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it's Shaq with the Boston Celtics.
No. That was the Big Shamrock. I didn't see a lot of the Big Shamrock. Of course, at the top of the tree here, let me move the mic up a little bit. Or down. We'll go down with it. At the top of the tree here, we have the star, Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant is the star at the top of my tree. right next to Jerry Rice and Joe Montana, or right above them. So I guess everybody should probably try to get on my level there. I don't see any other shows or really touching me on this. This is pretty top level. I didn't pay anybody to come do this. This is all my design. All right. Did you pull up those bowl games yet? I've been stalling for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Let you rack off the bowl games, the teams, and I will make my picks. And then you make your picks too.
Okay, so we gotta get right into this thing here. A lot of bowl games. It's gonna be starting off on December 20th. First at 2:00 is the Bahamas Bowl. Yep.
Bahamas.
In my country, there it will be the matchup between Buffalo and Charlotte, both at 7 and 5. Who you got?
All right. Buffalo and Charlotte. Charlotte has been a very underrated, underappreciated team. I've seen a lot of the guys over the past few years come through Tampa for training, for pro days, the NFL Combine, the Shrine Game, Senior Bowl, stuff like that. I've met with a lot of those guys. They have a good amount of talent, and that's a program really on the rise. What I'm going to do is I'll take Buffalo in this game.
All right. Actually, I'll take Buffalo as well. They are the favorite, around 4.5 points. Next on the docket is Utah State versus Kent State. Golden Flashes. Utah State is 7-5. Kent State is at 500, 6-6. This is the Frisco Bowl.
Kent State. Is there a... There's a famous... No, that's Akron. Never mind. I was trying to think of who Kent State's coach was. I can't say I saw a Kent State game this year, but I have seen Utah State. And I can tell you that their quarterback, I like him. He's probably one of the top NFL prospects. I hope he still plays in this game. Again, I think this will do a lot for his draft stock. I'm talking about Jordan Love. I will go with Utah State. Utah State, remember, they were making a game of it against Utah in the first game of the year, and the second half it fell apart. But I'm going Utah State.
All right, Utah State. All right. That is similar to what I have. Utah State there being a favorite. Next will be on Saturday, 2:00, New Mexico Bowl between Central Michigan and San Diego State.
So the New Mexico Bowl. If you've never traveled to New Mexico, it is worth it. It is definitely worth it. It's a beautiful state. Unless you like just cities and high rises and lots of tropical plants. Other than that, it's a beautiful state. It really is. If you like desert landscapes, if you like hiking, if you like biking, if you like to do any of the crazy shit you see white people do, they do that shit there. As well as hiking and biking and animal observing. I don't do the crazy white people shit. I'm too old for that. I don't know. I want to die in a way that is remembered, but like, damn, I don't know why I did that. Like the guy they did the documentary on for cliff climbing, the guy the free climbing, did freeform climbing, and they did that documentary where he climbed clear to the top of somewhere. I don't remember exactly where, but it was a big deal, right? And he thought about making a second documentary, but he was rappelling down in Mexico in a cave and died. So evidently he's really good without ropes going up, but if he comes down with ropes, that was his limitation, with ropes going down. But I mean, even there, I mean, everybody has their thing, but I am not a thrill seeker. I can find thrill in life outside of doing that stuff. So, New Mexico Bowl, we got Central Michigan and who?
Yeah, Central Michigan going up against San Diego State.
San Diego State, the Aztecs. San Diego State has been a pretty solid program over the last few years. A couple years ago, they were actually ranked at one point. So they've actually put together a pretty decent program, but I'm going to take Central Michigan in this game. Central Michigan has played some really good football this year, and they have I don't remember if it was wins or close calls against a couple Power 5 teams as well. So they have a win, don't they have I'm pretty sure they have a win over Miami. If I may be right on that. I'll have to go look. But Central Michigan, they have a couple of coaches there at Central Michigan. Really solid staff they have there. So I like Central Michigan in this game.
This may be a little bit of a close matchup here between these teams, but I am siding with San Diego State. I think they've been going through the better competition over the point of this season, so I got San Diego State in that game. Next up is the Cure Bowl, or whatever they call that bowl game. Georgia Southern against Liberty.
Well, normally. See, I think this is going to be a much closer game than people think. Hugh Freeze has done a tremendous job with continuing the upward trajectory for Liberty. And he just got an extension. I think it was like a 5 or 7 year extension, just like a couple weeks ago. And he's done a really good job with Liberty. I'm pretty sure I picked Liberty to beat. I think it was when they were playing Miami. I picked Liberty. They didn't beat Miami. They didn't. I think Miami. And I was wrong on that one. But I have a lot of confidence in Liberty. However, Georgia Southern has really shown an ability to play some big games this year. If I'm not mistaken, towards the beginning of the season, they beat Missouri. I have to pull up. Yeah, I'm going off the top of my head here. Pretty sure they beat Missouri towards the beginning of the year. So I will actually, again, the Cure Bowl, it's in Orlando. You can get tickets for it right now for like $15. Not kidding. You get $15. You could be in Orlando at the Cure Bowl. I might go. I might take Michael. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to go Georgia Southern.
Yeah. I got Georgia Southern. Yeah, I got Georgia Southern out of this game, though, man. That's one that that could be. I mean, that could be a pick 'em. They favor Georgia Southern in that game. All right, got a few more here. And Saturday's busy with a lot of games, man. Next one is Boca Raton Bowl. Yeah, Boca Raton Bowl. SMU against Florida Atlantic.
If my guy Lane Kiffin was coaching, I would say FAU. But now that Willie Taggart's there, it's almost mandatory that they lose. This game, plus the next 4 out of the next 13 games, I think. They can only win 4 out of the next 13 games that they play. I think that's mandatory as soon as Willie Taggart shows up. So, SMU has been really strong this year. They were ranked for a good part of the year, even by the selection committee. I'll take SMU.
I'm taking SMU as well. It's not because that Lane Kiffin is left, and it's definitely not because Willie Taggart is going to join Florida Atlantic, because if he was that bad of a coach, then he would have been that bad of a coach at USF, which he was not. He would have been that bad of a coach at Western Kentucky, which he was not. So I would say that
it's a first year. It's when he arrives. He was not good the first year at USF. He was not good the first year at Western Kentucky. He wasn't a good first year anywhere.
Okay, then what has happened with USF since he left? Nothing. So
no, Charlie has not progressed. Charlie Strong has not progressed, and that's why he got fired. And then they hired the co-offensive coordinator for Clemson. Yeah, Josh something. I can't remember. I have to look it up.
Well, it isn't Josh Heupel. But anyway.
No, not Josh Heupel.
I got SMU, man. I got SMU in this game. So, SMU getting the win on Saturday. Next up on Saturday, the Camellia Bowl. I don't know what the heck that is. FIU against Arkansas State.
FIU versus Arkansas State. Now, normally, I would be giving more love for Arkansas State. I've been kind of pounding beating their drum. It sounds kind of provocative. I've been rooting for them. I'm not rooting. They had earned my confidence. Let's put it that way. But FIU, man, they have really balled out this year. And they also have, one of the top 23 quarterbacks in college football. He'll definitely be a showcase, especially if he gets invited to the combine. His name's James Morgan. Kid can ball. Good arms, some athleticism there. I like FIU. I like the Panthers to win at home, basically. At home against Arkansas State.
Oh man, this is another one of them toss-up games, but son, I have Arkansas State winning this. I have Arkansas State winning. Now, Saturday's slate of game continues with the Las Vegas Bowl in a fairly significant matchup between Boise State and Washington.
You know, the interesting thing is, and that's the Las Vegas Bowl. The crazy thing about Washington State and Washington rather, and Boise State is they're actually really close to each other geographically. They're really close. Washington has been a huge disappointment this season. It is tough to see them continuing forward, especially. I know that I heard rumors that their coach was on the out. Let me just double check that real quick. Chris Peterson was on the way out, either firing or he resigned. He resigned. A sudden resignation is what it was. I know it was a couple weeks ago. I didn't want to say retirement or fired or whatever it was, but he suddenly resigned. So he's no longer there. And Boise State has just been consistent. I got Boise State in this game. I don't think the game will end up being close. So Boise State will probably win by 10 or more. I don't know what the line is or any. I'm not looking at any of that stuff. So, who do you got?
I got Boise State. I think they're going to be, a little bit too good there. I think they're a more complete team than Washington is this year. So, yeah, I got Boise State in that particular matchup there between those two combatants. And like I said, the action still continues on Saturday, as the last game is the New Orleans Bowl between UAB and Appalachian State.
UAB and Appalachian State. James, I think you know which way I'm going on this one. I think that there is only one way that you can go on this one. And normally, if it was any other team, I would go the other way. UAB has done a tremendous job of building up a football program, a bowl-eligible football program. It was closed down for, 2-3 years? Brought back up, picked up right where they left off. Did a tremendous job with that. I know a lot of kids were displaced because, again, we're talking about 100 and some student athletes that are now having to look at what the hell they're going to do as a student athlete, because intramural flag football is just not the same. So UAB has done a tremendous job, but not so fast. Appalachian State is just such a good program, and they've been so good this season. I have to go with Appalachian State.
Yeah, I got Appalachian State as well, man. I think they'll be able to pull off the win and, have a very impressive record to end the season at 13-1. Just seeing here if we can go through a couple more for the week.
Well, let's go ahead and get, because this will be the last. This will be the last Tuesday show of the year, because we fall on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. So, let's go ahead and hit on some of the marquee ones.
All right, let's go down to the Cotton Bowl.
Cotton Bowl.
Memphis against Penn State.
if Mike Norvell had stayed at Memphis, I think this would have been a tremendous game. But because Mike left and he's at your Florida State, and some of the staff has went with him, I think this is going to be a tough go for Memphis. I think that not having him there and having some of that staff there is going to affect it. Again, he is not coaching the game. He wants to get a jump on recruiting, which is completely understandable, even though this game is happening and that's us during the dead period. But anyways, Memphis loses this game.
I think I had Penn State winning, even if Mike Norvell was the coach. While Memphis does have a very potent attack in the game, Penn State's has one of the best run defenses in the country, I think. So, I think that they would have been able to stifle the rushing attack of the Tigers, and they're going to pull off that win on December 28th. Want to get down to the other New Year's Six Bowlers before the semifinals. So, Orange Bowl, Florida against Virginia.
Yeah, this is tough. It really isn't tough. I think it's pretty clear cut. I think Florida's going to win this game. I think Virginia's going to... They've shown with teams, just like you've seen all year, against a lot of the competition they've had, including Clemson, they've found ways to find creases in defense in the opposing defense, even high-level defenses like Clemson. And I think they'll do that against Florida. And I think this could either be Virginia's up at half or it's close at half. But I think Dan Mullen will do a good job of making adjustments at halftime. And I think that Florida ends up winning this one by, a couple scores. I hate to say that. I mean, Bronco Mendenhall is doing such a wonderful job there at Virginia. They just need a ton of skill players. They have a quarterback, and that's like, they have a quarterback and like one receiver. That's it. It's hard just to play pitch and catch with two people, So they're lacking in the talent, but not in the determination. But I have Florida winning.
Well, that team, the Virginia Cavaliers, are going to use that determination to force some turnovers on the Florida Gators, and that pitch and catch is going to work enough for them to puff the win at the Orange Bowl. Let's go, UVA. Come on, man. I can't pick.
I know you.
I couldn't pick the Gators.
I know.
There's no way we're going to do that.
I know.
All right.
We'll put that as a point for Bronco Mendenhall, right?
Yeah. Next New Year's Six Bowl to go through. Rose Bowl game between Oregon and Wisconsin.
I think it really depends on which Wisconsin team shows up. I think this game has all the makings of what we saw in the Pac-12 championship. Utah, and Wisconsin parallel in a lot of different ways. Stout defenses, under talent and underutilization of the quarterback, and really predicated heavier on the run. Oregon has such a high-performing offense. Mario Cristobal and his team have done a wonderful job on the defensive side of the ball. They've limited points and just across the board. They play really good defense. I know they're really known for their offensive line. They probably have the best offensive line in college football. But their defense has really played well this year, has been underappreciated. I have Oregon pulling out the win here.
Yeah, I have Oregon as well. Like you said, Wisconsin's similar team to Utah, but they have one of probably the best running back in the country in Jonathan Taylor. But you're going to need more than that in order to outscore Oregon. Because when Oregon's at the top of their game, they have a good running back as well, and they have one of the best, one of the top quarterback prospects in the country there on that team as well. So I think that their offense is going to be a little bit too much Wisconsin to deal with to get the win there. The Sugar Bowl is next one up, and it's Georgia against Baylor.
I think, as funny as it sounds, is I kind of put Georgia and Wisconsin with that feel. It just depends on what Georgia team shows up. I think Jake Fromm has shown a lot of his limitations this year. He hasn't had a stellar year, but he's some limitations. Swift has done a tremendous job about picking up some of that difference, and they are very talented at wide receiver as well. Great offensive line, and they have a really good defense. On the other side of that, Baylor has been vastly underappreciated all season. So they played 2 games neck and neck pretty much with Oklahoma. And that's not something that everybody can say they've done. I think, however, in this situation, I don't think Baylor can eke by on this one either. The same thing that happened with them and Oklahoma twice will end up happening here. The Baylor Bears will lose this game.
Yeah, Georgia to me hasn't. They have their spots where they don't look as good as they should be. They did have that loss to South Carolina at home, and they were still able to, go out of that and have a winning streak until the SEC championship game where they lost to LSU and pretty much lost big to LSU. But they should have enough within their roster in order to take down Baylor in that game there at the Sugar Bowl. So there's that. Now, just for the we gotta go see if we can go pretty quickly here. First semifinal. LSU against Oklahoma.
Can we do which one is? I want to throw one in real quick. It was the one in Orlando. It's Notre Dame and Iowa State. I think it's the Camping World Bowl. I just want to throw that one in because I'm pretty sure I'm going to that game. And I got Iowa State.
That would be an upset for me. I got Notre Dame in that game.
What? You said Notre Dame? Got you to say it.
I did. I did say Notre Dame.
Got you to say it. All right, the semifinals.
I've been winning that. First semifinal, LSU versus Oklahoma. LSU number 1 team, Oklahoma number 4 team. Will be in Atlanta on December 28th.
This would be an interesting game. I'm going to really enjoy watching this game. And I have LSU winning this game because LSU is a really good team. And though their defense has struggled in execution at times, and I think the weakness for LSU really is their linebacking core right now, which isn't normal for them. They've had a lot of really good guys left for the NFL over the last 3 years. So they're a little thinner there, younger there than anywhere else on the defense. I love their defensive backs. They go 5 deep at defensive back. So they have guys that they can, off the bench, that they can rotate in that play at a high level. And I have a nickname for their secondary. It's called the Five Guys. So I got LSU winning this one. Same way they've won all the rest of their games this year.
LSU pulling away. I think it'll be around 14 points. Oklahoma does have a very potent offense, but I think LSU is going to force a couple of turnovers from Jalen Hurts, and that will, lead to a big lead early against Oklahoma, and then they'll, kind of like cut down the deficit. But LSU will end up winning that game. It's going to be similar to Oklahoma against Alabama last year. Alabama pretty much had a big lead, and then Oklahoma just had to keep trying to come back, but couldn't really do it. And at the Fiesta Bowl, Clemson versus Ohio State.
I think Clemson versus Ohio State. I think this will be the highest rated game of the entire season. The highest rated game of the entire season. Ohio State is the better team. They have a much better defense. When people talk about this Clemson team hung in there with Alabama, listen, this Clemson team is not the team it was last year. Yes, they're uberly talented on offense. But they've taken a step and a half back on defense as far as the talent goes. They
Thank you for using Blog Talk
do
Radio.
not go
Goodbye.
deep. They do not go deep like they did last year. So I have Ohio State winning this game, like they have all the others, and playing against Ohio State for the national championship game. So that's all for Blog Talk Radio. So thank you for everybody over on Blog Talk Radio that tuned in. This is the end of the show for this week. Thank you all who have listened in or listened to the podcast version of the show. If you haven't, head on over to Spreaker.com. It's like speaker with an extra R. No, it's not a lisp. There's an extra R. It's Spreaker. Spreaker or Spreaker.com. There's a free Spreaker app you can download for free and listen to the full podcasted versions or live versions of the show over there as well. Thank you, all of you over on Facebook that tune in each and every week to the live video broadcasting of the show. Thank you so much. And for those of you that are on Sportscaster, that are watching and have tuned in to our inaugural show here on Sportscaster, this will be a regular spot where we will broadcast the show moving forward. This is the last show of the Tuesday shows for the year, just simply because Christmas Eve and and New Year's Eve fall on Tuesdays this year. And I don't want to listen to me on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. So I would assume neither do you. So for the Tuesday shows, you'll hear us again after the first of the year. But we will definitely be doing a special broadcast show in between that time because, again, we have the semifinals that are that we'll do previews for the Cold Hard Truth or the Cold Hard Truth on college football. So for more on the show and content, head on over to the Cold Hard Truth on Sports website at thechtonsports.com. Check out all the content we have over there, football, basketball. We have an awesome water cooler section. There's fitness and nutrition. You wanna get some great German chocolate protein bar recipe? Boom. It's there. Not going to get that on any other sports website. So definitely check it out. Tune in each and every week here. That's all I got for you this week. I'm out. Peace.